The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, greetings. Welcome to another presentation in this public service nation-building series, The Law and You. This is program number 875. Coming to you on Monday, the 11th of September 2017. On this program, I will speak to you on the topic Special Powers of Attorney. But before getting into the topic, quite a few preliminary comments. Beginning as usual with deepest condolences to all families which have suffered recent bereavements. In particular, the family of the young lady who was reported to have been stabbed to death by a group of persons, according to the newspaper reports, and the family of Mr. Carlos Bibi of Dayson Cottage, otherwise known as Carlos Williams. Now, Carlos's death announcement really shook me up when I heard it last week. I have known him for a great many years. We played in opposite cricket teams in the Narrow Shield competition in the 80s. He was captain of the Dayson Cottage cricket team, and I was a part of the Saints cricket team. And I remember one extremely exciting match at Caliacor between our two teams. But over the last 20 years, since I have been coming up here at Dorsetshire Hill, at the premises of SVG-TV to do The Law and You, Carlos has been one of the main builders or contractors, I should say, doing improvement work on the premises. And just a few months ago, he completed a retaining wall on the eastern side of these premises, so that if you drive up here, as soon as you start to mount the last steep hill, you will see a retaining wall out on your right-hand side. That was Carlos's work. And I recall chatting with him, as I usually do, when he was building the wall, and he was explaining to me the engineering principles on which the wall was built. My deepest condolences go to his family, and in particular his brother Basil Williams, whom I have known also for a long time. I understand that Carlos went fishing on the rocks at the foothills of Fort Charlotte and apparently fell. But I was really, really saddened to hear of that death. And let me say that I was extremely pleased with the proceedings at the funeral yesterday afternoon of the late Canon Sidney Herbert, also known as Sidney Billington, which took place at St. Paul's Spiritual Baptist Church at Sion Hill. Everything went extremely well. And once again, my condolences to the family of Canon Herbert. Now, today is a special day in the history of the United States of America. Today is the anniversary, the 16th anniversary of the incidents which are collectively known in history as 9/11, because it was 16 years ago that there was an attack, physical attack by aeroplanes in 3 locations in the United States of America. In New York, where the Twin Towers were brought down, in Pennsylvania, and at the Pentagon. In all, almost 3,000 persons were killed, including one Vincentian. So that we have to continue to condemn acts of terrorism wherever and by whomsoever committed. My condolences go out to the government and people of the United States of America on this, the solemn 16th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. And whereas those attacks were man-made over the weekend and still continuing, we have had the ravages of Hurricane Irma, which began here in the Caribbean with the destruction of some of our islands. It is reported that Anguilla, Barbuda, and St. Martin were hardest hit, and we have seen the television images of the ravages wrought in these Caribbean islands. And then we're hearing today that the Cuban government has reported that 10 lives were lost because Cuba also got extensively damaged from Hurricane Irma. My condolences go out to the government and peoples of all the affected islands. And I'm sure Vincentians, when organized, when the matter is organized, would be generous in their support of hurricane relief efforts. We in the legal profession have already started collecting money to send to our colleagues in the Virgin Islands who were hardest hit by Hurricane Irma, which continues. It has now ravaged the islands, it has ravaged Florida, and it is now, we understand, going on to South Carolina and other states in the southern part of the United States of America. And then we heard of Hurricane Jose coming behind, but the reports are that that is tending to go to the north and may not do as much damage as Hurricane Irma. Excuse me. Finally, for preliminaries. This year, 2017, marks the 50th anniversary of the establishment of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. And in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the legal profession has organized certain events to mark the 50th anniversary. A committee of the Bar Association has been spearheading the events, and one such event is due to be held here Thursday this week, the 14th of September. And you'll be pleased, my brothers and sisters, to hear that on Thursday, between the hours of 9 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon, members of the public would be able to go to the compound of the old public library next door to Heritage Square, where they will be able to get free legal advice from lawyers. Now, I know you're not accustomed to getting things free from lawyers generally, but you simply have to go there. And the arrangements are that there would be several booths, and at least one lawyer would be available in each booth for at least 1 hour, 1 hour per lawyer throughout the day. And that lawyer will give you free legal advice. You don't have to pay a cent. So that is this week, Thursday, at the Old Public Library in the Yard. And everybody should know where the Old Public Library is, next to Heritage Square. Now, this is not the first free legal aid clinic the Bar Association has been having. You know, the Bar Association has been having free clinics throughout the years, but perhaps they have not been as widely publicized. So come along and put your queries to lawyers, and they would endeavor to give you free advice. And then there'll be leaflets given out to the public on various areas of the law. I will be attending for a 1 hour session throughout the day, and I hope that everything would go well. All right? So now we come on to the topic for the evening: special powers of attorney. In law, there are two kinds of powers of attorney: general and special. A general power of attorney is when someone signs a document appointing someone else to act on that person's behalf as his lawful attorney on record in relation to general matters. But a special power of attorney is when a person appoints another person for a specific purpose or for specific purposes. And as usual, I'll try to break it down for you. Now, powers of attorney were very fashionable in colonial days because, as we recall our history, most of the owners of plantations in the British colonies lived in England. They visited their plantations occasionally. But during their absence, legal documents would be signed on their behalf by a specially appointed person called an attorney on record. Now, attorney on record is to be distinguished from attorney at law. An attorney at law is a lawyer, but an attorney on record hasn't got to be a lawyer. That person simply has to be an adult who is literate. Now, there is one quirk in the English language is full of quirks, but there is one in the pronunciation and spelling of attorney. The word is spelled A-T-T-O-R-N-E-Y, but it is pronounced attorney, not attorney. So the A-T-T-O-R is pronounced as if it were A-T-T-E-R. But it is spelled attorney, A-T-T-O-R anyway, but pronounced attorney, A-T-T-E-R-N-E-Y. So therefore, an attorney on record is somebody who is appointed by somebody else to sign legal papers for the person who has made the appointment, called the appointor. As I said, has nothing to do with attorney at law. Whenever you refer to an attorney at law, it means a person duly qualified and admitted to the bar to practice law. But an attorney on record is simply somebody you appoint to do things for you when you're not able to do them for yourself. The usual circumstance is when you are planning to be absent from the island or from the state. If you know you're going away for some time and there are things you wish to have done during your absence, which would be inconvenient to be done by sending documents to you to have them signed and notarized in a foreign country and sent back, you appoint someone, your attorney on record. If it is an appointment to do anything at all which you can lawfully do, then it's a general power of attorney. But if it is for a specific purpose, then it becomes a special power of attorney. These days, special powers of attorney are usually to be found where estates are to be administered, not exclusively, but usually. So that if someone has been named as an executor in a will, and that someone happens to be abroad, then that someone can appoint a special person, a special power of attorney, to authorize someone else to carry out the responsibilities of executor. Now, there is a little bit of a legal complication because there is a principle in law which goes by the Latin phrase, delegatus non poter delegare. It means that a person who has been delegated with powers hasn't got the power to delegate somebody else. But we will not go into that complication because there are occasions when a controversy comes up as to whether somebody who himself is an appointee, like a testator, like an executor, has the power to appoint somebody else. But putting aside that and other legal complications, generally, a person can appoint somebody to carry out a specific responsibility. As you would imagine by now, having listened to what I've said so far, if you are appointed to do X, you can't do Y. In other words, if you're appointed to do one aspect of a legal situation, unless the other aspect is so closely related to that that it cannot be separated, that is what you are confined to. In other words, you have to follow the orders. You have to follow the limitations which adhere to the special power of attorney. In other words, you have to stick to what you have been authorized to do. If you are authorized to apply for letters of administration in respect of one estate, that doesn't give you authority to attempt to meddle in another estate that you have nothing to do with. So, a special power of attorney limits the appointee or limits the person who has been given that special power of attorney to do only that which is set out in the document by which you are appointed. I just use the word document. And that should immediately tell you that powers of attorney, whether general or special, have to be in writing. You can't have anything like an oral power of attorney. There are other forms of agency which you can have orally, but not powers of attorney. And not only do powers of attorney have to be in writing, they have to be registered at the courthouse so that a person can go and check to see if an allegation that X has been appointed as attorney on record for Y is true or is not true. And if you don't find that power of attorney duly registered in the book that contains the registration of powers of attorney, then the presumption is that it does not exist. Therefore, if, say, you are going abroad for any length of time, and we have lots of students going abroad for study for 1, 2, 3 years, and there are things which might be necessary for you to do while you are abroad in terms of signing legal documents and so on, then you find somebody you can trust and you get a document drawn up called a power of attorney, whether special or general, and since we're dealing with the topic special power of attorney. It is signed by you. It hasn't necessarily got to be signed by the person you are appointing. It's the person doing the appointment who has to sign to say, I am appointing my mother or my father or my uncle or my friend as my attorney on record for the purpose of carrying out X, Y, and Z. And you sign it, it is sealed and registered. You get a copy, the person gets a copy, and the original remains at the courthouse. If it is signed but not registered, it is not in force. It is not a lawful power of attorney until it is registered. So be careful of that. Now, when you give somebody a power of attorney, make sure you know what you are doing. Make sure you can trust the person, because you are giving that person the power to sign important things for you. If, for example, it is a general power of attorney, then you are giving the person the power to even go to the bank and sign for you. Once the person goes to the bank and say, hey, this is a registered power of attorney, so-and-so who has gone away has appointed me his attorney or her attorney, and have come to draw out money from the bank book, the bank has to deal with you because you have presented a valid registered power of attorney. Now, if it is a special power of attorney, then you can't go and draw out money from the bank book unless power to withdraw money from the bank has been set out in the special power of attorney. So special powers of attorney are limited to what is written there, but the general ones are the ones you have to be careful about because they allow you to do practically anything which the absent person could have done if he or she were present. Occasionally a person, I'm not saying you have to be absent from St. Vincent to appoint somebody, you know. Suppose somebody is bedridden and is not really capable of, carrying out normal functions. That person could appoint somebody, an attorney on record, whether general or special, depending on the condition. But when that person is to sign the power of attorney and the person is unable to sign, you have to have an official attestor present, explaining, reading over the document to the person and making sure the person understands what is happening. And I've dealt with official attestors before. To be on the safe side, you get somebody like a deputy registrar to go to the home of the person or the hospital or the institution in which the person is. You might say, suppose a person is in a mental health center and has mental health issues, well then, you have to go to the judge. And there's a separate procedure. You can't have a power of attorney from somebody who is not in the right mind. There's a special procedure for that, for the judge to appoint a committee to be in charge of the mentally incapacitated person. The bottom line is that in any situation in which you think you might want to appoint a person an attorney on record, you check out a lawyer and get proper legal advice before you do these things. And usually if you get legal advice and you follow the legal advice, all will be well. It's when you don't bother with a lawyer and you try to save money by not going into a lawyer's office to do these things, and you roast up something, plain goat skin lawyer, well then you may get into trouble. All right? Okay, well, I know my brother, Captain Brennan King, would have it to say that boy like P.R. get barrel, because P.R. wearing a set of pretty shirts and so on. Okay, Brennan, let me wear my pretty shirts. We're still on the High Court holiday. Vacation ends in a few days' time, and I will go back to my formal, boring legal wear. But for those who are wondering, how come Mr. Campbell wearing pretty shirts and so on? Ask my staff. They're the ones who insist that I wear this sort of garment. So check Miss Raggy, Miss Foyle, Miss Edwards, Miss Richards, Miss Marksman, and Miss Bracken-Durant, and let them answer as to why the boss all of a sudden wearing pretty shirts and the law and you. All right, so that is all from this program of The Law and You. I look forward to being of further service to you next week, Monday DV, for another presentation in this public service nation-building series, The Law and You. Don't forget Legal Aid Clinic, Thursday the 14th of September at the grounds of the Old Public Library, where you'll get free legal advice from a battery of lawyers. who would be happy to serve you. May the good Lord continue to bless us all.
The Law and You. A look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You. Presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.